Out here, in the wild places where rope rescue takes us, the environment don't play fair. Rocks, cliffs, rivers, and all sorts of unpredictable hazards are just part of the scenery. That's why every rescuer has to gear up right. Hazard-specific PPE isn't just a suggestion, it's your lifeline. It keeps you from ending up a hospital story or worse. We're talking the basics first: protective garments to shield you from cuts and scrapes, sturdy footwear for uneven ground, gloves for your hands, helmets for your noggin, and harnesses to keep you connected to the rope and the team. Every piece of equipment needs regular inspection and proper care. A worn rope or cracked helmet isn't just bad luck, it's danger waiting to happen. Now, the NFPA gives us some guidance on harnesses and general PPE care, but it doesn't cover every last bit of what we need for high-angle rope rescues. That's where experience, other industry standards, and a healthy dose of common sense come into play. The key takeaway: know your gear, keep it in top shape, and don't let distractions steal your attention while lives hang in the balance. Time to take a minute to talk about the gear itself. Out here, our equipment falls into two broad buckets. First, there's your personal protective equipment, your PPE, the stuff you wear to keep the bumps, scrapes, and serious injuries from turning into something worse. Then, there's your rescue equipment, the tools you actually use to do the job, ropes, pulleys, and all that. Now, picking the right clothing and PPE for high-angle rescues isn't just about looking sharp, it increases your margin of safety, keeps you comfortable, and helps you perform like you mean it. And the choices you make aren't random. They're influenced by regulations, what your AHJ requires, the environment you're in, and sometimes, just plain personal preference. You'll notice variations in PPE from place to place. Could be the region, local protocols, temperature, or just what resources you've got on hand. That's normal, and you gotta know why you're wearing what you're wearing. And don't forget, the workplace itself can throw hazards at you: electrical risks, fire ground conditions, chemicals, rough terrain, all of it factors into your PPE choice. The key takeaway here is simple: know the environment, know the hazards, and pick the gear that protects you from both. That's how you stay sharp, safe, and ready to perform when it counts. Now, just because a piece of PPE meets regulations don't mean it's enough for rope rescue. NFPA 1971 covers firefighting garments, heat, flame, chemical resistance, but those tests don't really tell us what we need up on a rope. Rope rescues can happen anywhere, so universal standards just aren't practical. Your AHJ might reference NFPA 2500 or earlier NFPA 1983 editions, and that's fine, but remember, your goal is maximum protection, not just compliance. Think about your local SOPs, regulatory rules, performance specs, and even personal preferences like comfort, fit, and durability. When it comes to choosing PPE, keep your eyes on the prize, keeping you safe out there on the ropes. Now, let's talk about what really drives your PPE choices. First off, your local SOPs and regulatory requirements set the baseline. But beyond that, you've got performance specs, size, color, and other measurable factors. Then there's comfort, fit, mobility, durability, and personal preference. Don't underestimate those. For garments, layering works best. A moisture-wicking base layer keeps you dry, an insulating layer keeps you warm without bulk, and an outer layer protects against weather or contaminants. Make sure your clothing fits right: arms can reach up, legs can move freely, no straps flapping into your gear. Always balance protection with mobility, and remember, what keeps you safe on the ground may not cut it up on a cliff. The right choices here can make all the difference. Partner, let's talk protective garments. Now, there's a bunch of NFPA standards, 11 of them that relate to clothing worn by rescuers, but truth be told, none of those are tailor-made for high-angle rope work. 2 of these standards are worth a gander though. NFPA 1951 covers protective ensembles for technical rescue incidents. It gives guidelines for things like surface abrasion, thermal protection, and even comfort, but still not rope rescue specific. Then you've got NFPA 1977, for wildland firefighting. That one's influenced the U.S. Fire Authority's report on protective clothing needs for urban search and rescue missions. That document isn't just for city rescues either, it's a solid starting point, reminding us that mobility and comfort are king, especially since incidents can last hours. Now, in fire service lingo, technical rescue usually means dealing with building collapses, vehicle or machinery extrications, confined spaces, trench rescues, or even water rescue. So when you pick garments for rope rescue, you gotta keep comfort, mobility, and dexterity in mind, fit just right, not too tight, not too loose, avoid loose straps, make sure coverage is solid, and the gear can handle abrasion, wear, and tear. And always think about the environment you're working in, hot, cold, wet, or dry. Safety's about balance, not just compliance.
Now, what influences your choices in garments? Well, besides following SOPs and regulations, you gotta consider comfort, mobility, and dexterity. You need to move freely, climb, reach, and maneuver without your gear holding you back. Check the fit. No binding in arms or legs, no loose straps or dangling edges that can get caught in your rigging. Coverage and durability are key. Abrasion, tears, and where are real threats up on a rope. And don't forget thermal protection. You may be working in freezing rain or scorching sun, and you need garments that protect without slowing you down. It's all about balancing protection versus agility, and picking gear suited for the risks you'll face on that particular call. Layers. Folks. Layers. That's the secret for rope rescuers. You got 3 basic layers. Base layer. Wicks moisture away from your skin. Polypropylene and other synthetics work well, but keep in mind, some synthetics can melt or stick if you get too close to heat or flame. Insulating layer. Keeps you warm, even when wet from rain or sweat. Pile fleece or down works fine, but avoid anything too bulky that hampers movement. Final layer. Protects against the environment, weather, or contaminants. Don't go too loose or floppy. Loose edges can snag on ropes and gear. And remember, shirts and pants must let you reach up or lift legs freely. The last thing you want is your clothes fighting you when you're trying to save a life. Comfort matters as much as protection. Turnouts, ensembles, or even Nomex and FR cotton outfits might be fine in the city or a firehouse, but out in the wilderness, they may not cut it. Think about conditions and exposures versus the actual risk and consequence. Your gear should match the hazards you face: abrasion, weather, thermal extremes, or long-duration missions. The goal isn't just to comply with standards. It's to protect yourself so you can operate efficiently, stay alert, and get the job done safely. Always remember, gear that's uncomfortable or restrictive can become just as dangerous as hazards themselves. Make smart choices, balance your priorities, and keep yourself safe out there. Alright y'all, let's talk boots and socks. Footwear ain't just something you wear. It's your foundation when you're dangling off a cliff or scrambling over rocks. The requirements are simple: comfort, protection, and adhesion. Leather still rules the roost for multi-purpose rope rescue boots. It's tough, it's pliable, and it gives you ankle support while keeping your feet protected from scrapes, cuts, and bruises. You'll be standin' and walkin' for hours, so your boots gotta be comfortable too. And don't forget, non-slick soles are key to keeping your balance. Rubber boots? Forget it. Good for water, sure, but for rope rescue, they just ain't up to the task. Your feet need grip and support, not to be sliding around like a greased pig. And socks? Don't neglect them. They're part of your footwear system. 2 sock combos work best: an inner sock to wick away sweat, and a thick outer sock, often wool, to protect and keep your toes warm. Keeping your feet happy keeps you focused and safe. Now about soles and specialized boots. Lug soles can give you extra traction, but they ain't always perfect. Some lug patterns can get slick when wet or muddy, so don't just grab a boot for the tread. Adhesion matters more than the look of the sole. If you're doing technical rock climbs, you might see technical climbing boots. They're built with special rubber compounds and often have a welt for certain climbing techniques. Great for sticking to rocks, but don't expect to be comfy walkin' or standin' in them for long. These are specialized tools, not everyday wear. Finally, socks again. 2 layers reduce blisters. Inner wicks moisture away, Outer keeps you warm and protected. A small detail, but trust me, it matters when you're hanging in your harness all day. Keep your foundation solid, and your rescue goes smoother. Buddy, let's talk about gloves. The hands are your lifeline in rope rescue. The requirements are pretty straightforward: protection from burns and abrasions, comfort, durability, and dexterity. Heavy leather gloves are tough as nails. They'll take a beating and protect against heat, but they can feel stiff. Soft leathers, on the other hand, give you the dexterity to tie knots, handle carabiners, and work the rigging without fumbling. Some gloves have extra layers or padding in the palm and fingers to protect against friction, especially important if you're hauling a load or running rope for hours. Now, a word of caution. Fast rope gloves ain't for rope rescue. Those are built for tactical helicopter insertions where you're sliding down a rope fast. If you're wearing gloves that thick and heavy for extra heat protection, you're rappelling too darn fast for normal rescue work. Keep it practical. Protect your hands, keep your dexterity, and you'll be safer on the ropes. Next up, helmets. Choosing a well-fitting helmet specifically designed for work at height is critical. A good helmet protects your head, reduces the severity of injuries from falling objects like rocks or hardware, and can even lessen brain trauma if you fall and hit your head. Now, let's be clear. Structural firefighting helmets just don't cut it for rope rescue. They're often too heavy, they lack a secure retention system, can obstruct your vision, and are uncomfortable to wear for long periods, especially in hot environments. Some helmets out there might look protective, but they give only the illusion of safety. They can actually be dangerous in rescue situations. The takeaway: only purchase helmets specifically designed for rope rescue. Comfort, visibility, and retention are non-negotiable. So, what makes a helmet suitable for rope rescue? First, it needs a secure chin strap. Elastic straps are a no-go. They stretch and can let the helmet flip off your head under stress. A proper rope rescue helmet also has a 3-point retention system: left, right, and back of the head, keeping the helmet from sliding forward over your eyes. Quick release features are optional for emergency scenarios, but in general, the chin strap should resist accidental release. Next, the shell. Materials like plastic, fiberglass, Kevlar, or composites work well. The shell should resist sharp object penetration, absorb some impact, and protect against falling debris from above or the side. Inside, the helmet should have a suspension system or impact-resistant lining, allowing airflow, comfort in hot conditions, and durability. A slight brim can deflect debris and rain, and coverage should protect the front, sides, and back without obstructing your upward vision or snagging on gear like rope bags or rescue kits. Harnesses are the backbone of rope rescue safety. They are the primary system that keeps rescuers secure while working at height, so choosing the right harness is critical. While recreational climbing harnesses exist, they are typically Class 1 and are not suitable for rescue operations. They are designed for standard climbing scenarios to hold a single climber's weight, and often lack the padding, wider webbing, and reinforced tie-in points needed for extended suspension or lifting another person. Using them in rescue could put the rescuer at serious risk. Rescue harnesses, on the other hand, are designed specifically for the demands of rope rescue. They provide full support, distribute weight comfortably, and include reinforced attachment points and padding for longer operations. When selecting a harness, always match the performance requirements to the task at hand. Consider suspension time, mobility, load bearing, and the potential for inversion. Remember, the right harness isn't just about comfort, it's about safety. Investing in a proper Class 2 or Class 3 rescue harness protects you and those you are rescuing. NFPA 2500, the standard for life safety rope rescue, classifies harnesses into categories that help guide proper selection. Class 2 harnesses are designed for heavy-duty work by one person or for rescue scenarios where a second person's weight may be added during the operation. They provide full body support but are less bulky than full rescue harnesses. Class 3 harnesses are full body harnesses intended for situations where fall protection and inversion may occur. These harnesses distribute weight across the body, support the rescuer when upside down, and include reinforced tie-in points for safety. Class 1 harnesses, which were included in older NFPA 1983 editions, are no longer recognized in NFPA 2500 and should be considered unsuitable for rope rescue. Instead, Modern terminology uses belt for personal support equipment that is not a full-body harness. When choosing a harness, always ensure it meets NFPA certification for the task. Using the wrong class can compromise safety, suspension comfort, and operational efficiency. A secure harness must provide comfort, freedom of movement, and reliable support in all positions. Key features to evaluate include waist, leg, and thigh supports to distribute weight or fall forces over a wider area, reducing pressure points and fatigue. Webbing and stitching should be strong, evenly sewn, and ideally in contrasting colors to detect wear or abrasion. Ease of adjustment and donning allows rescuers to quickly gear up without hassle. The harness should stay in place while walking or performing movements on the ground, ensuring it doesn't slip or ride down. These design considerations are critical. A harness that restricts movement or slips under load can increase risk and reduce the rescuer's effectiveness. Beyond fit, a harness must perform reliably during actual rope rescue operations. It should allow the rescuer to return to an upright position if they become inverted. The design must prevent the rescuer from falling out, even when upside down. Front tie-in points are essential to maintain proper center of gravity and balance. Critical stress points, such as attachment points, should be reinforced with extra webbing or heavy-duty connectors to withstand operational loads. When selecting a harness, consider how it will be used. Will the rescuer spend extended time in suspension? Will they be lifting or supporting another person? Each of these factors influences which harness model and certification are appropriate. Remember, a harness is more than just gear. It is the core system that keeps you safe at height. No single-seat harness design fits everyone. Rescuers should try several different models to determine which design provides the best combination of comfort, support, and operational functionality. In certain scenarios, a Class 3 full-body harness may be preferred over a Class 2 seat harness. Consider these situations. When the rescuer or subject must be constantly held upright, such as during vertical work on exposed edges. When wearing top-heavy equipment like a breathing apparatus that could shift the center of gravity. When the person is above average weight, requiring additional support to distribute forces safely. During specific climbing or mountaineering activities where fall arrest and inversion protection are critical. When placing the harness on a subject in certain rescue situations. Class 3 harnesses, which often feature separate seat and chest components, allow rescuers to customize the fit for the specific operation. This can be less constraining than a Class 2 harness, while still providing full body support. The harness is arguably the most important piece of personal gear in rope rescue. An unsuitable or poorly fitted harness can cause discomfort, reduce mobility, and even increase the risk of injury, potentially hindering the rescue effort. NFPA 2500 provides minimum standards for rescue harnesses, derived from NFPA 1858 and the equipment testing portions of NFPA 1983. When selecting a harness, consider materials. Harness webbing should withstand heat, flame, chemicals, and water exposure. Aramids or para-aramids are commonly used for these conditions. Functional features. Gear loops, pockets, or webbing management options should enhance operational efficiency without compromising safety. Integration with protective gear. When a harness is worn over or under bunker gear, it should not interfere with the integrity of NFPA 1971 compliant protective clothing, and the protective gear should not compromise the harness function. Ultimately, trying on multiple harness designs and selecting the one that provides comfort, support, and operational versatility is critical to the safety and effectiveness of every rope rescue operation. Victim extrication devices are designed to safely secure and support a subject during a rescue. NFPA 2500 provides provisions for Class 2 and Class 3 victim extrication devices, which are essentially harnesses intended to be placed on a person who may be incapacitated or injured. These devices are tested in much the same way as rescuer harnesses. They undergo strength, durability, and retention tests to ensure that they can safely support the weight of the subject during vertical or horizontal movement. Victim extrication devices have several practical advantages. They are often simpler and faster to don, which is critical in time-sensitive rescue situations. This simplicity can make the difference between a rapid extraction and a prolonged, riskier operation. However, there are some trade-offs. Unlike full-featured rescuer harnesses, victim devices usually provide fewer provisions for comfort, such as padding or extended suspension support. This is generally acceptable because the victim is not expected to perform active movements during the rescue, but rescuers should still select devices that minimize pressure points and distribute weight as evenly as possible. Understanding the types, limitations, and proper use of victim extrication devices is essential for both the safety of the subject and the efficiency of the rescue team. Emergency harnesses are improvised harnesses that can be constructed in the field using rope or webbing. Their purpose is to provide a temporary means of securing either a rescuer or a subject during a rescue when no standard harness is available. While NFPA standards do not specifically address emergency harnesses, they are an important skill for rescuers to know. Being able to create a tied seat harness can make the difference in urgent or unexpected situations. The key aspects of emergency harnesses include adjustability and construction. Since they are tied in the field, adjustability is limited and dependent on knot placement and tension. Construction quality can vary, so rescuers must understand proper tying techniques to maximize safety and prevent slippage. The pros of emergency harnesses include rapid deployment and the ability to improvise with available materials. The cons include low comfort, minimal security, and limited adjustability. They should never replace a properly engineered, certified harness but can be life-saving in the short term. One common type of emergency harness is the diaper-style harness. This harness is typically made from 10 to 12 feet of rope or webbing. It is designed to wrap around the subject, forming a simple seat to hold them during a lift or lower. In skill drill 7-1, rescuers practice creating a diaper-style harness. This drill emphasizes speed and efficiency in tying the harness, which can be critical in a time-sensitive rescue. However, the diaper-style harness has notable limitations. It provides minimal security, tends to not stay in place well when not under tension, has low comfort, and offers almost no adjustability. While useful in emergencies, rescuers should be aware of these limitations and monitor the subject carefully to prevent injury during use. The Swiss-seat emergency harness is a slightly more advanced tied seat harness. It takes longer to tie than the diaper-style harness but provides a more secure and adjustable fit. In skill drill 7-2, rescuers practice constructing a Swiss-seat harness. The drill emphasizes proper wrapping and tensioning to maximize security while maintaining as much comfort as possible. This harness is used by the U.S. military, and specifically, United States Marines are expected to tie it in under 60 seconds. This standard highlights the importance of speed, accuracy, and familiarity with the tying process during tactical or emergency situations. Swiss-seat harnesses may be used in a pinch, but like all tied seat harnesses, they are temporary solutions. A properly engineered harness supports the pelvic girdle, minimizing pressure on nerves and arteries in the groin and back. Pros: more secure and adjustable than a diaper-style harness. Rapid deployment if practiced regularly. Cons: longer setup than a diaper-style harness. Discomfort over long periods. Potential circulatory problems if used for extended operations. While extremely useful as an emergency tool, Swiss-seat harnesses do not replace certified rescue harnesses.
So the next thing that we're going to go over is the military rappel seat or a Swiss seat. This is a specialty knot. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the ends of my rope together, and I'm going to come all the way down until I find the middle of the rope. Once I find the middle of the rope, I'm going to hold the bight there, and I'm going to place this on my left hip above my belt. I'm then going to grab and wrap around my body, ensuring that this rope doesn't leave or doesn't spin around. Once I've done that, I'm going to go left over right once, and then twice, and I'm going to cinch that down above my belt. From there, I'm going to let it hang between my legs. I'm going to grab it, and now that waist belt that I've just created, I'm going to have my thumbs inboard, and I'm going to push the ends of my rope down and through, and notice that I have just created a half hitch on either side. I'm going to these straps to bisect my pockets. I don't want them outside or inside of my pockets. And now I'm going to make a final adjustment on the front side, and now I'm going to squat down, and I'm going to pull the rope straight down. And I'm going to repeat that step twice for a total of 3 times. Once I've done that, and my harness is now nice and tight, I'm going to come back to my left hip, and I'm going to tie a square knot. I'm going to tie this nice and tight, making sure that when I tie my overhands, just like in the square knot video, they follow the locking bars. I'm then going to take the locking carabiner here, and I'm going to face it towards me, just like I was going to hook a fish, and I'm going to come straight down my body, down to my ropes. I'm going to grab my waist belt, as well as the Twizzler line, clip the carabiner in, flip it over, and then I'm going to lock down the carabiner. At this point, my gate should be facing up, and the large portion of the carabiner should be facing away from me. You have 60 seconds to tie this. The standards associated with it are when the instructor comes up, if he pulls on your carabiner here, he should not be able to fit the fist between or behind your straps. The pigtails should be no smaller than your fist. If they're extra long, it doesn't matter. We're looking that you have the half hitches here and that they are bisecting your pockets. Up front, we want to make sure that your carabiner is fully locked down. Anything more than a quarter of a turn is going to be considered an unlocked carabiner. And then finally, we're going to make sure that the Twizzler has 2 wraps and the carabiner, or excuse me, and the square knot is tied properly.
When we talk about Pickoff seats, sometimes called rescue triangles, we're really talking about a simple but effective tool for moving a victim safely. These devices are made from strong webbing and are generally shaped like an oversized triangle. Some even have armholes or curved sections to help hold the victim more securely. The key with a Pickoff seat is that it keeps the victim seated deeply, lowering their center of gravity relative to the connection point. This makes lifting or lowering much more stable and controlled. You can think of it as giving the victim a little chair in midair. They're secure, but they're not trapped. One of the big advantages of the Pickoff seat is speed. It's lightweight, easy to carry, and simple to deploy, which is exactly what you need when seconds count. It's not designed for long-term suspension, but for urgent short-term moves, it works very well. When selecting a Pickoff seat, you want to consider a few factors. First, it needs to fit the victim properly. If it's too small or too flimsy, it can compromise safety. The webbing and hardware should be rated for rescue loads and inspected for wear, because your safety, and the victim's, depends on it. Finally, optional features like padding, armholes, or reinforced sections can make the ride a little more comfortable and secure, which is always a good thing. In short, the Pickoff seat is simple, light, and effective. A practical solution when you need to secure a victim quickly and move them safely. It's one of those tools that may seem small, but in the right hands, it can make a huge difference. Now let's talk about escape belts. These are designed to give a firefighter an emergency means of getting out of a life-threatening situation at height. Think of them as a last resort tool, something you use when you absolutely have to get yourself down safely. It's important to understand how escape belts differ from ladder belts. Ladder belts are really meant for restraint only. They hold you in place, but they're not designed to support your full weight. Escape belts, on the other hand, are tested for additional forces because they may be used to suspend you in an emergency. But here's the catch. While they're built to help you get out of trouble, escape belts are not harnesses. They usually don't have leg loops, which means the belt can ride up when you're hanging, creating a horse collar effect. They're generally made of narrow webbing, like 2-inch webbing, so they don't distribute your weight like a full harness would. This makes them less comfortable and potentially riskier for long periods of suspension. So why would you use one? Because in the heat of the moment, if a fire or collapse prevents you from using a full rescue system, an escape belt gives you a way out. They're light, portable, and can be deployed quickly. But they're not a substitute for proper rescue harnesses or systems. Think of them as a temporary, emergency-only option. The bottom line is this: always know how your escape belt works, practice using it safely, and understand the risks. It's a tool that can save your life, but only if it's used correctly and at the right time. Now we need to talk about suspension trauma. This is a potentially hazardous condition that can occur when a person is hanging motionless in a seat harness for an extended period of time. The longer a person stays suspended without movement, the greater the risk of physiological complications, which can range from dizziness and fainting to serious cardiovascular issues. The medical community is still somewhat divided on the exact pathophysiology and mechanism of injury. Some debate exists about how quickly it develops, what the exact effects are on circulation and the nervous system, and the urgency of treatment. But what we do know is that time is a critical factor. Previous treatment protocols recommended keeping the subject upright and seated even after bringing them to the ground. However, current protocols focus on treating the subject for shock, which may include high-flow oxygen and fluid replacement, as well as monitoring for other signs of distress. The prompt rescue of anyone suspended in a harness, especially if they are unconscious or unable to move, is still absolutely critical. A practical point for rescuers: if you anticipate needing to stay suspended for any period of time, you can reduce the risk of suspension trauma by using foot loops, stirrups, or an etrier attached above your primary attachment point. This allows you to stand in the loops, shifting weight off your body and maintaining circulation while suspended. One thing to avoid is using the dorsal connection point as your primary suspension point for extended periods. Hanging from the dorsal attachment can place the body in a compromised position and increase the likelihood of blood pooling in the lower extremities, which is a major factor in suspension trauma. It can also cause discomfort or even injury to the spine or shoulders if you remain suspended too long. Always prefer a full-body, properly fitted harness with a suspension method that allows some ability to move your legs or redistribute weight. So, in short, stay aware of your body position, don't rely on dorsal attachment for long suspensions, use foot supports when possible, and rescue promptly. Being proactive is the best way to prevent suspension trauma from becoming a serious medical emergency. Next, let's discuss waist-only support belts. These include life belts, ladder belts, pompier belts, and similar equipment. Now, it's important to be very clear. These should never be used as your single point of support in any high-angle rescue or suspended activity. They were not designed for that kind of load. These belts are intended primarily as a safety element to help prevent falls from ladders or other elevated positions, not to hold a person suspended in mid-air. If you try to use them as a primary harness, several serious risks come into play. For one, the belt can slip up under the armpits, potentially constricting the waist and rib cage. This can lead to severe injuries, including internal trauma, crushed ribs, or even spinal injury. Additionally, because the support is only around the waist, it does not distribute the load to the legs or pelvis, which can cause rapid fatigue, nerve compression, or circulatory problems. In extreme cases, relying solely on a waist-only belt can result in permanent disability or death. The bottom line: waist-only belts have their place, but that place is limited. They are a supplemental safety device, not a replacement for a full-body or Class 2/3 harness. Always make sure that your primary attachment distributes the force over your body correctly, and reserve waist-only belts for their intended purpose, preventing a slip or providing minor restraint, not full suspension. Now let's talk about something that might seem small, but can have serious consequences: preventing dropped objects during a rescue. High-angle hardware, rope bags, carabiners, any piece of equipment, can easily be lost or dropped if it's not properly secured. And remember, a falling tool or piece of gear can cause serious injury to anyone in its path. That's why it's essential that everything stays attached to something secure. There are a few ways we can do this. Most harnesses have equipment loops, which are perfect for keeping carabiners, prusiks, or small tools attached. For smaller items like screwdrivers, knives, or radios, tool lanyards work great. They keep the item accessible while making sure it can't fall. But what about bigger, heavier tools? Anything weighing 12 pounds or more should not just hang on your harness. The safest approach is to tie it to a separate line, giving it its own independent security. This not only prevents the tool from dropping but also keeps your main line clear for your own safety and the safety of the person being rescued. And one more critical reminder: even when you're careful, accidents happen. If something does slip or fall, you must immediately yell "rock," so everyone below is aware and can get out of the danger zone. If it can fall, it must be secured, and always communicate if it's dropped. Make this a habit with every piece of gear, big or small. It's one of the simplest ways to prevent accidents on a rescue scene. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked, yet absolutely critical pieces of rescue gear: your light source. Rope rescue operations often happen at night, in basements, attics, or other enclosed areas with zero ambient light. Without a reliable light, your efficiency, safety, and even survival can be compromised. That's why every rescuer must always have a dependable, hands-free light source, usually a headlamp or a mountable light on the harness. When selecting a headlamp, make sure it's easily adjustable, comfortable, and stays securely on your head. The last thing you want is your light swinging around while you're on a rope. And always carry extra batteries and a spare bulb. Running out of power mid-rescue is not an option. Now, let's talk batteries, because not all are created equal. Lithium batteries are generally the top choice. They have a long shelf life, perform well in the cold, and are lightweight. But they are more expensive, and older models have been known to vent gas or even explode, so make sure you're using modern certified cells. Alkaline batteries are cheaper and widely available. Some headlamps with alkaline cells have a secure switch to preserve battery life, but they won't perform as well in extreme cold and don't last as long as lithium. When it comes to the type of light, you have a few options. Halogen bulbs give a really bright, concentrated beam, great for seeing far, but they drain batteries quickly. LEDs are lightweight, last a long time, and are efficient for long-duration tasks. Combination halogen/LED lamps give you the best of both worlds: a strong beam for distance and a long-lasting light source for sustained operations. Finally, if you're working in a hazardous atmosphere, maybe a space with flammable gases or dust, you need a light that is intrinsically safe. That means the lamp is designed to prevent ignition, even if it's dropped or exposed to sparks. Not all lamps are safe in all conditions, so match your light to the hazard class of the environment. Bottom line, your light is not optional, it's essential. Make sure it's hands-free, reliable, properly powered, and rated for the conditions you may encounter. And remember, a good rescuer is always prepared for the dark. Now let's talk about knives, which are often a rescuer's go-to tool, but they come with a lot of caveats. First off, careless use of a knife can result in personal injury or even accidental damage to your life safety equipment. Remember, your rope, webbing, or harness is only as strong as its weakest point, and a slip of a knife can ruin it. Knives can be helpful in freeing a victim's clothing or hair from a rappel device. But let's be honest, these situations are stressful. A victim may be in pain, panicked, or unable to move, and it's all too easy to accidentally cut a loaded rope or harness component while trying to help. That's a scenario we absolutely want to avoid. So, what are the safer alternatives? One common tool you'll see emergency services personnel carry is the seat belt cutter used in motor vehicle extrications. These have a recessed blade, which makes it far less likely to cut a lifeline or rope accidentally. Trauma shears are another option. They can cut through tough material like clothing, seat belts, or light webbing, but they still require careful, intentional use. And sometimes, the best solution isn't cutting at all. Using self-rescue skills like tying a prusik knot, deploying an ascender, or using a foot loop can get the job done safely without ever touching a knife. The key takeaway: knives are tools of last resort. Use them with extreme care, and always consider safer alternatives first. When in doubt, think: is there a method that avoids putting the rope or the victim at risk? If yes, take that route. Before we even touch new equipment, the first thing we need to do is read the manufacturer's instructions and get proper training. A tool is only as good as the person who knows how to use it. Once it's in service, we need to keep track of it. There are a few ways to mark and track equipment: etching, engraving, permanent markers, whatever works to make it clearly identifiable. And what should we log? At a minimum, date of purchase, date placed in service, manufacturer, product name, a unique identifier, and any other info that might help later. Think of this like the equipment's personal file. You need to know its history if something goes wrong or if maintenance is needed. Keeping records isn't just busy work. It helps us see patterns of wear, identify older gear, and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Next, pre-use inspections. This is a quick check done by a competent rescuer before every use. It's not a full teardown, but it should tell you whether the equipment is ready and safe. If you find something that isn't in good working order, don't use it. It's that simple. Most of the time, this doesn't need formal documentation, but mentally walking through the check each time can save lives. Think of it like looking both ways before crossing the street. It's fast but critical. Then there's the periodic inspection, which is more thorough. This is where you really get hands-on and check form, function, wear and tear, and dates of service. These inspections should be documented because over time, you want a paper trail showing the gear has been properly cared for. Timing-wise, at a minimum, inspections should be annually, but busy teams might want to check every 3 to 6 months. The manufacturer's instructions will usually give you specific criteria for each piece of equipment. Documentation is key for periodic inspections. Record not just that it was inspected but also the findings. Minimum inspection interval. Annually. Preferred interval. Every 3 to 6 months for high-use equipment. Follow the criteria outlined by the manufacturer and keep it all logged. This is your proof of diligence, and in the event of an incident, it could make a huge difference. Finally, let's talk about signs of damage, because knowing what to look for is half the battle. Hard goods, like carabiners, pulleys, and descenders, are generally easier to inspect. A handy mnemonic to remember is academic. A. Alignment. C. Cracks. A. Action. Does it function properly? D. Deformation. E. Edges. Look for sharp wear or rough spots. MI. Missing parts. C. Corrosion. Soft goods, like ropes, slings, and harnesses, are trickier. Use T-shaps to remember what to check. T. Thermal damage. C. Contamination. H. History usage log. Age. P. Physical damage. S. Soiling. And remember, maintenance matters. Keep PPE clean, store it properly, and follow the manufacturer's guidance. A little care goes a long way in extending the life of your equipment and keeping it safe. Now let's talk about maintenance benefits. Because keeping your gear clean and stored properly isn't just about looking professional, it directly affects safety and performance. Think of it this way. A rope or harness that's dirty, wet, or stored in a cramped corner is weaker and less reliable. That's not a problem you want to discover mid-rescue. Proper maintenance starts with cleaning. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Some equipment can be rinsed with fresh water. Others may need mild soap or special cleaning solutions. Avoid harsh chemicals. They can damage fibers and metals. After washing, make sure gear is completely dry before storage. Moisture can weaken ropes and promote mold on soft goods, and corrosion on metal parts is never a friend in rescue work. Then comes storage. Store equipment in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and chemicals. Hanging ropes or coiling them neatly can help prevent kinks and wear. For hardware, make sure it's not banging around in a bin. Use dedicated compartments or bags if possible. The benefit is twofold. Not only does it extend the lifespan of your gear, but it also protects you and your team in the field. You'll know your equipment will perform when it counts, and that confidence is priceless. Remember, good maintenance is not optional. It's part of being a professional rescuer. So we've covered a lot, from harnesses and emergency seats to inspection, maintenance, and even suspension trauma. Let's pull it all together. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is everything you wear or use to protect yourself on a rescue, while your rope rescue equipment is what you use to actually effect the rescue. Both are critical, but they serve slightly different purposes. When we talk about hazard-specific PPE for rope rescue, we mean the specialized gear designed for the environments and hazards you'll face in rope rescue. Environments that aren't always the same as your typical fireground. That's why gear selection matters, and why your equipment must meet local SOPs, regulatory requirements, and performance specifications. Things like size, color, fit, durability, and even personal comfort all come into play. Typical firefighting gear is amazing for the fireground, but in rope rescue, it can be heavy, bulky, and restrictive. Your garments should allow mobility and dexterity, without loose straps or flapping edges that could catch on an anchor or obstruction. Footwear: comfort, protection, and traction. Gloves must protect your hands from burns and abrasions while keeping dexterity intact. And a helmet? Well, it protects you from falling debris or an accidental faceplant, which, trust me, happens more than you'd like to admit. Remember, NFPA 2500 classifies harnesses into Class 2, seat harness, and Class 3, full body harness. A poorly fitted or unsuitable harness can make it almost impossible to perform your duties. So take the time to ensure the fit is right. And don't forget, inspection, maintenance, and proper documentation aren't optional. They're essential. Gear that's neglected is gear that won't protect you when it counts. Why did the rope rescuer bring a ladder to the party? Because he heard the drinks were on the top shelf. Stay safe, keep your gear in check, and remember, your equipment is only as good as the care you give it.